in the cabbage.
Well, let's get it.
Test.
Yeah, we're live.
Welcome to In the Cabbage. This is crazy.
This is pretty bananas right now that we're actually doing this.
I'm Tommy Swain, Andrew Witt. Please subscribe, please listen, please download, like. And just a reminder, keep swinging. Welcome back to In the Cabbage. I'm your boy, Tommy Swain. To my right, or your left, Andrew Witt.
Yo.
We are back. We're just going to jump right into what we were talking about everything being way too expensive.
Yeah, dude, it just really grinds my gears. It really does.
Yeah, it's becoming increasingly difficult to want to do anything.
And it's such a big trickle down effect as well. It's like even at the very, very most simplistic restaurants that you go to eat, fast food's not even cheap anymore. And
right.
And for good reason. Everyone deserves to get paid those jobs, increase minimum wage. But it's just the fact that the dollar is just depreciating, and it feels like the bigger companies are just getting bigger, and everything's starting to really tighten up recently. And I've been feeling that a little bit more, and I just don't even want to go out and eat I had to shut down Cafe Rio for dinner tonight. I'm like, I don't really feel like paying $40 for Cafe Rio. I'm like, I don't want to fucking pay $40. Sorry.
Right. That's just so tough because it's such an easy option at times to I really don't feel like cooking dinner, but it's what's the other option? A $50, chicken rice bowl from wherever, it's not like it's a decent option anymore.
Gas is $6 a gallon.
I just filled up Madison's Jeep and it was $98.
Jesus Christ, dude. I mean, it's just insane.
And it makes, in reality, when you really think about it, it's becoming less likely that you could probably stay in California.
Yeah. It's certainly feeling that way. They're kind of just squeezing us out over here.
Yeah, they're just slowly wringing us dry, and it's working. And Madison and I go through phases of that too, where it's can't afford anything, can't do this, can't do that, and then you just have a breakthrough moment, and you just start becoming appreciative for everything again, and then you go right back to the same cycle where I can't do anything. I think it always happens when we start talking about plans, future plans. It's wow, how much is that going to cost? What are we doing here? But at the same time, you gotta live your life.
For sure.
You gotta
live it. I agree.
You can't. I understand you could probably save every dollar and say no to everything, and that's why our generation's broke and can't afford houses and can't do this. But at the same time, it's okay, well, I'm going to be broke regardless. If I save every penny or I don't, I'm still not going to be getting exponentially richer.
Right.
My wealth isn't going to grow that much.
Right.
Where
I know
I can at least go play golf.
It's like picking your battles, right? It's picking the battles on certain meals when you're going out, or maybe just the likelihood of you just eating out a little bit more consistently, and then just kind of reducing that, tailoring your picks a little bit, maybe trying to carpool a little bit more. Do I really need to go drive down over there? I don't know. It just everything that I'm doing right now, I just see a price tag in my head.
Yeah,
and it's driving me nuts, honestly.
No, it really is.
Drive down to go see my parents. That's $10 right there.
Are you really? You're getting that deep into the price tags?
It's because now I'm thinking about down payment for I'm getting to a point where it's I need to really make every dollar count, because now I'm also paying back my student loans, and that's $600 a month, and that is that's a pretty hefty lump sum of cash to just fork over every month with the car payment. And it's damn, dude, this is that's $1,000.
$600 a month, dude.
Yeah, a month for 10 years.
For 10 years.
Okay, it's $580, but
round up.
It's 600. It's 600 in my head.
It's all intents and purposes $600.
Yeah,
it's that's tough.
And so it's how are you even doing it if you went to a private school in college?
Right, if you
holy
went to USC.
Moly. Hopefully, if you go to USC, you can make some connections, and you go and kill it in sales, and a $1,500 student loan payment every month for 20 years.
Right. But how many people in college are like actually utilizing their like network like that?
I don't know.
At USC, if you're in a frat, are you actually like utilizing your network, or are you just getting cross out drunk every night?
Yeah, maybe it's a networking thing after
yeah,
college.
You hope so. Like, hey, I saw you went to USC. I did too.
Right.
You know, when you're talking to managers.
Hope so.
You know, which is great. That's always a nice little way to get into a conversation with somebody.
It's just so ridiculous because I've been seeing it more because one, the student loans kind of kicking back in. I'm trying to like save over a house, and then we've got all these weddings and places we want to go, and you're going overseas and going like a trip and blah blah blah. It just seems like there are all these expenses, and like you said, you have to live your life, and so now I'm like, okay, well, you know, I got to like really start like tightening down on a couple of things here and there. And I hate doing that. And I just hate feeling like I'm just driven by everything is like a price in my head right now. And I want a new phone. My phone's super old, and it'll also help the podcast. And so that in itself, it's like, dang, dude, that's a hefty sum right there to go and fork over for a phone.
You're not wrong. It's always...
Now, is it needed? No, but it would help us create some more better video content, and so we can do more social media posts and blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, of course.
You know what? I just kind of thought of this. Yeah, like whatever we want isn't really needed. And people are like, oh, you don't need to buy that. You don't need to do that.
Right.
Well, it's also they don't make anything now to last. Like if you bought a couch back in the day, you wouldn't really need to update it because it would still be functioning.
Right.
Like it'd still be a couch. Your fridge, you wouldn't need to update your fridge because it would still work.
Bro, you have an oven that's from like 1942.
And it still works.
Like it's so ridiculous.
I could beat the hell out of that thing and it still works. It's like the most functioning item I have in my house, and it's the oldest item in my house for sure. It's like old school writing on it. It's crazy. And you just can't like upgrade anything because it's like, you know, you're going to need to upgrade it in like 6 years.
Right.
And you know, like it's going to be insanely expensive to buy.
Do you think it's because everything has to be so technologically savvy that there's way more things to go wrong now?
Yeah, and I also just think people understand. I think business has gotten so skewed in the idea that you have to make the most maximum amount of profits on everything you do, period.
Yeah.
You can never just take your healthy cut anymore.
I don't really think this is a theory. I think this is legit fully going on right now.
Right. So there's never like, hey, I made $1 and you know, bought a product that's like gonna, you know, last, it's gonna do this. And I made a fair amount of money back, and I also and I'm proud of what I put on the table to like sell you. They don't have that anymore.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies out there just trying to make a quick buck. That's what you're kind of saying.
They're like, I'm going to go to China. I'm going to make all of my stuff for $2, and I'm going to sell it to you for $500. And all the parts in it are going to be cheap, and everything, the labor is cheap, and everything about it's cheap. And I'm just going to charge you the maximum amount of dollar
that you're willing to pay for it.
Right, because I know you're going to pay for it. And in 5 years, those parts aren't going to last because they're not built to last. And they have it. They have like tests they do for like furniture and fridges and stuff like that. And it's supposed to be, you know, like this is how long the product's supposed to last. And they purposely like, oh, this engine's going to last 20 years. It can't last 20 years. It's got to go out after 5 and 200,000 miles. And they do the math. So if you don't, or you're not like keeping up with it, it'll just start going bad.
That's why the Apple iPhone craps out after about 4 years.
Oh, my phone, like I have a 10 right now. I maybe I have a 13. I'm not
No.
sure.
You got a 13.
I got a 13.
You did have a 10.
I did have a 10.
And then you went to the 13 or 14. Like I
went
know.
to 13, and it's already like getting slower. It's the battery dies super quick on it. It's just it's a bummer because you're just like, okay, what do I? Because Matt and I were just talking about it. I'm like, there's so many things I would love to just upgrade in my house that aren't crazy asks. Like a new couch isn't a crazy thing to want.
Right.
A new TV.
Not a crazy thing.
Like now if I said I want to break down walls, I want a brand new bathroom, I'm going to rip all the flooring out. Like that's like, okay. Maybe,
Paint everything.
Right. Like, it's just not maybe in the cards, financially to always afford that no matter what generation you are in.
Sure.
But like one new couch and a couple TVs, I'm like, it's gonna be like a decent couch that's like gonna last is like $5,000.
Yeah, it's nuts.
And then 2 TVs that we want nicer, probably gonna spend like $2K on that.
Yeah, you can't drag yourself to living spaces and expect to have that couch for 10 years.
No,
there's
you can't
zero
go to
chance.
IKEA and be like, I'm gonna buy this $1,000 couch from IKEA, and this is gonna last me 5 years. You're lucky if you get 2 out of that thing.
Yeah.
IKEA furniture goes bad like tomatoes. As soon as it walks out of the store, you might as well just wrap it up, bro. Bad like bananas. It's just, yeah. It's so crazy now.
The TV game is actually, I think, surprisingly pretty solid right now. I will have to say, if there's a little bit of cash that you want to invest in a TV and get a 65-inch TV, it's pretty solid.
Well, yeah, that's also the issue is I don't like, for whatever reason, why I do want to spend the money, I always want to spend it on something that I find value in, and what I find value in is spending a fuck ton of money.
You got some bougie taste, baby.
I mean, and it doesn't help. My wife is the same way, so we're both just egging each other on. And
because when you're going to buy something, you do also want the best. If you're going to like fork over that amount of cash,
right? I would rather like if I'm going to spend $2,500 on the couch, I'd rather just spend $5,000 and get the exact couch I want.
Yeah,
because to me that matters more because I know I'm not going to spend that money later.
And you're going to hope that it's also going to last a little bit longer as well.
Right. You just hope that you can, get more juice out of the squeeze here,
Yeah,
But
I hear you.
anyway, let's get to some sports here, some sports docs. We got a great little list for everyone here, a little in the cabbage to start, but that's what you expect from the boys. We go through hard times just like everybody else. And right now, it just seems like everyone's going through it. So it's fun to talk about. We're going to get into the David Beckham documentary. I don't know if you guys have seen it on Netflix. One of my favorite docs I watched.
They're really bringing out some fire documentaries recently.
Really great sports
They've
docs.
been doing some really nice stuff. I can't get enough of it. I know you haven't either. And I just thought that the whole display of 4 really long, solid episodes that really gave the full perspective of his upbringing to early adult play to how he was raised to his passion for the game to then his early on pro career, his like almost family feeling and affection towards Manchester United, the struggle that he went through with all of that, moving on to Real, the hype and how big everything was at Real, and then him making the groundbreaking move over to the United States. They really painted the picture very clearly, and they did a really good job of it. And so,
though, one thing I was kind of disappointed with in the doc, there's a couple things, but the main one for me was the end of it when he was talking about the MLS. I was really hoping to get a bit more insight.
I was too.
Like he's like, oh yeah, then I started taking it seriously, and then we won, the championship.
And then it was done. And
he didn't talk about like the splash it made in the U.S. Didn't talk really about like the growth of the sport in that time for the U.S.
Right.
Like U.S. making like I think the farthest or second farthest in the World Cup during that time. David Beckham's there, probably had a huge part in that. I mean, you can even see the stadium at the end of it when they won it was packed.
Dude, they're playing on like freaking football fields and baseball fields like on dirt.
Didn't see any really highlights of goals. It just seemed like it was part of his life he didn't fully enjoy. And they kind of just brushed through it. And
at the end, it is his documentary, basically.
Right.
So you're probably thinking this is not really about the soccer anymore. This is more about the family.
Right. He's like, okay, my soccer life is done. It's crazy. Oh, I mean, like some of the parts that I found just really fascinating is how crazy it is to be a talented soccer player in Europe and having to be a part of a club since you're 12.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about stress?
Yeah.
Go watch that documentary and put yourself in their shoes and what they go through. Holy shit.
Can you imagine being like, okay, Andrew, you were very talented at basketball. We see it.
I mean,
you're one
okay.
Yeah, but like let's just because they don't really a 12-year-old's a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Like you can see you were probably crossing up 12-year-olds.
I was like, I was solid.
Okay, anyway, so let's just say you're like,
Let's talk more hypothetical here.
Hypothetically.
Yeah. Because I wasn't that much of a stud.
If you were top, 10, not even. I mean, because these kids are getting picked up at 12. How many,
Yeah, he got
you have enough had to have a team.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be pretty decent, but they pick you up. So like you don't have to be the craziest player to be picked up by a team.
Sure, true. And he gets shipped off, moves away from home.
Right. And they go and he lives and it's like his family at that point. And it's just crazy to think that like at 12 years old, you're playing for your eventual club and you're no longer living with your family and you eat, breathe, and live football and soccer.
That's it. And that's your life. And then hope to God it works out.
And then they run the same system through the ranks, up and up. And so everyone understands the offense. And so when you're already at that level, you already understand what's going on.
Yeah.
You're just playing it at a much faster pace, which is crazy to me to think about that. Also, he's super OCD.
Yeah.
The house things, you could tell he likes nice things. Everything has to have a place and a purpose. His house is immaculately clean and gorgeous. He is not just cleaning it. He is cleaning it, like getting his elbow into it. I mean, when I clean my counters, it's a little spritz and it's just a wipe.
That's all I'm doing.
And he's getting like rags and different, everything. And he's getting in there with his elbow and it's clean.
How about that moment where at the end of the documentary, he was going through and his closet.
Oh, yeah. And how perfectly lined up it was.
Evenly spaced. Everything was facing the right direction, sorted by color, and all sorts of socks and underwear. And they're laid out perfectly so he doesn't have to lift up any of the piles.
All his T-shirts are folded perfectly.
And so he can see all of his options. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, this is crazy how OCD and meticulous he was. And it was weird because I'm sure he was like that as a kid growing up, being very meticulous about his training and his touches.
Yeah, I mean, you
has to be, right?
You have to be that way. Also, I think it has to do with coping. A lot of that OCD stuff is to protect you. He's like probably feels that his life is so out of control that people decide everything for him that he have ultimate control.
Yeah,
in his own home.
It's a good way. That's a good take. I like that because there were some points in the documentary where I did not want to be David Beckham. Like if you were let's say the top soccer player in the entire world playing for arguably one of the most passionate countries in the entire world and the captain, and you make up like you're a hero 1 second and then you're like you're the entire country's villain the next.
Yeah. And
the paparazzi is nonstop. There's no break.
Yeah, that was crazy to me. The amount of paparazzi he was receiving and the hate he was getting was crazy. I also think
getting bullets like mailed to him.
Yeah, that's just all. It's just a game. At the end of the day, he wants to win it just as bad, if not worse, than you do.
You don't think he was like one of those kids dreaming
of being like his whole life is to be in those moments and being in the final and whatever, and being in a semi and being close to that and just not having it come to fruition is tough to imagine. Yeah. And then you go back to your home country, which is supposed to support you, and they just want you like dead.
They're booing him for just months on end.
Months and months on end. And he can't having an awful relationship with his wife. And you forget these people have like home lives too,
Yeah, he's like raising kids.
Right.
One of the craziest things that I have ever heard on TV was the fact that he actually got their kid kidnapped from them at one point in the documentary.
I don't remember that part.
If I might have misunderstood it, maybe they framed it in a sense that they feared for that, but I thought at one point they did actually have, I forget the oldest son's name.
I do too.
But I thought he did get kidnapped for
Romeo.
I think
it's Romeo
for like a hot second.
Maybe. I don't remember that.
I don't know
exactly.
if it was a kidnap, but I think like taken out of their hands, like swooped up, and like they had to like get him back.
Wow.
So it wasn't like, he was off and gone. It was more of like someone has the audacity to like grab their kid from their hands.
Right. Yeah, it's
like,
just
holy
all
shit, dude. That's crazy.
It's just way too popular. Also, I feel like David, unfortunately, when you get that, popular, you can kind of bring it onto yourself.
Yeah, and he definitely did.
And there's moments he definitely did that. And also,
he didn't need to marry a Spice Girl.
Yeah, but that's not on him. That's awesome. My issue would be like, you have a big game and you're like, have to fly or drive to your wife, the night before or the day before. You do that all the time, his day off. Like, I understand. It seemed to me like a weird attachment, because
I think maybe it had to do with the fact that everything else is so chaotic that he was just going back to just
it felt safe and all that stuff. And I get that, but there's no reason why, like, when you're playing for the World Cup, that you have, like, your wife the night before tells you that, like, she's pregnant. Like, at that point in the documentary, they're like, yeah, like, the night before his biggest game, you had to tell him. He's like, well, he would want to know. Of course he would want to know.
Right. But
maybe
maybe
after the game,
you pick your battle on when to deliver that life-breaking message.
Which is great. Like, it's like, at the end of the day, like, it is family. They do love each other. Soccer is just such a brief moment in this man's life. Like, he'll be playing soccer. Mm-hmm. Soccer will always be in his life, but playing soccer is such a brief moment in David Beckham's life that I understand, like, when you see your future wife and your kids and doing all that type of stuff, but at the same time, you're playing for your country once every 4 years, and it's your dream. I don't understand the whole, like, I have to go see her, the 2 days before.
Yeah.
Or you're playing for your club's championship. Now, is it a regular season game against Watford? Sure, I get it. Go see Posh Spice. I would too.
Right.
But the day before some of these huge games, to me, just seemed like a little childish.
It is a little strange. Yeah. Yeah. I thought one of the other, because I think it's the documentary is very interesting because we have all these opinions bringing about all this stuff. But I did wish one more thing as well, and I wish they actually got into a little bit more of his managerial position over at Inter Miami.
Yeah, just kind of the whole MLS side of it just cut short. I don't know if they're going to add another part 2 at some point to, like, talk about the MLS and bringing over Messi, which would be great. But yeah,
because it was like 20 minutes of the documentary, and I wanted another full hour and a half long episode of him going to the board, pitching a new club to Inter Miami. Mm-hmm. And it only lasted, like, I don't know, maybe I'm being generous.
Why he was even in it, like
how he pulled Messi. Like, right. That is like one of the craziest things that he ended up, like, bringing over to the United States. We talked about it multiple times on the podcast about how Messi is going to change the way USA delivers a package of soccer on the football pitch, because it's groundbreaking for sure. Yeah, and I wish they had a little bit more of that in there too.
And it just is going to bring more and more players over. Like, David Beckham started it, which was cool to see him bringing over, like,
Yeah, he also
one of the best soccer players of all time, if not the best, some would argue.
Oh, yeah. And he already brought over Jordi Alba, and he brought over Sergio Busquets, and Luis Suarez is now out of his contract for his club, and he's talking about coming over to Inter Miami and playing.
That's crazy if they get that dream team together.
Nuts.
That'd be so much fun to see.
Absolutely insane. So I wanted more of that.
Yeah. I mean, overall, one of my favorite docs. Go give it a look. Moving on here for our next little topic. I want to talk about chemistry again. We kind of are talking about chemistry between you understanding offense. Let's talk about chemistry in football, because I think recently we're seeing, like, a huge trend of, like, having familiarity in an offense with a quarterback and a receiver core is becoming more important moving forward. Like you were saying, like the Mahomes and, Travis Kelce connection has been unreal.
Yeah, it really has been. And I think it's something that's always overlooked, because if you think that you're just going to go out and get the best players, you're going to win. Yeah, that's probably true, but will it mount to something that is a, like, almost dynasty type feel? Or when it comes down to it, it comes down to a couple plays in the Super Bowl. Like, do you have that chemistry and trust built up, or are you just trying to assemble, like, the best possible team? And I think there's a fine line between the two. And I argue a little bit more towards obviously you need the pieces, but the chemistry I think has to be there. And it's pretty evident when you're watching the Chiefs play. And I had this thought because Travis Kelce has like all of these rub routes and alternate variables that he could run, and his creativity in the zone reads. No one else is really doing that. And Patrick Mahomes also sees that. Yes, you need to have a great quarterback to also see and be on the same page, but you need to both have a very high football IQ to see those holes, fill them, and then trust and feel that it's all going to be there and clicking. And so you just see it like year after year after year after year that these guys are just like dominating. And like, yes, Travis Kelce is like, you know, a really good football player, but he's not the most physically gifted athletic player anymore at the age of 33.
No, but he just finds gaps and he sits them and he's going to catch the ball. I think
Great hands.
Was what listening to a stat when they were just mollywhopping the Chargers. I think they had like 23 for 23 receptions at one point.
Yeah, I think I got it to 28.
Okay. There was
28 targets with 28 catches.
That's crazy.
And it was a 1 in 3,000 chance of that actually happening again.
I mean, it just talks, you know.
If you don't think that's chemistry, like, I don't know. I mean, yes, it's a combo of the two, but there has to be some sort of element with the chemistry.
And it begs the question, like, you know, I think football, more than anything else, chemistry is the biggest part of a team. Like in basketball, a lot of times you can win games by just throwing the best players out there, and they might just jump in one year. Mm-hmm. Like Lakers are a great point on that. You know, last seed getting into the playoffs, have to go through a play-in to win. They add a bunch of players last minute, and they end up making a run to the Western Conference Finals. Mm-hmm. Like, that doesn't really happen in football, where you like wipe a team. I mean, they dropped added so many different pieces, lineups changed and everything, and they became infinitely better. Mm-hmm. Like, very seldomly, like, will one player or two players, three players make a huge difference like that in football. It's almost like a new coach. That's why I feel like teams always get wiped. It's like a new coach, new culture, new players, and then they find their system and people grab onto it, and then they have to find their system players. Makes me think about maybe coaches also need to start, because the Eagles have a lot of Bulldogs on their team, like Georgia Bulldog players. And they all, same coach, from what I believe. They don't change very often. They play the same-ish style of football. I think it's really important to, like, maybe as a pro coach to draft players who are familiar with each other. Maybe they ran the same offense in college. You're drafting people into the offense. You kind of run to a similar coach. I bet you that all plays into it.
It totally does, because there's certain DBs, middle linebackers that are better at coverage. They're better at blitzing. They're better at man-to-man. Mm-hmm. They have all of those. And then you also want to draft those players that are going to link up with the defensive coordinator, and vice versa on both sides of the football. They for sure have to do that. But I think they look at that too when they're doing trades as well. They have to. Getting the correct pieces and players to play in those systems. It's so crucial. But I think that's why there's some football teams that are just so tragically bad.
Yeah,
right?
They just don't no chemistry, no formula to win, no locker room, and they just look like they're just not a team. And that's what I feel like is going off the Chargers right now. It's just they have a bunch of bodies. There's talent all over the field. It's spread throughout the field.
On paper, it looks fantastic,
and there's nothing that can be done. And you start pointing fingers, and it has to go to the coach. It's like, what's up with your locker room? What's up with the chemistry? Mm-hmm. Why your culture is off? Why are these players not figuring it out? And something that does help chemistry a lot is stealing signs in football.
Yeah. Disrupt the chemistry maybe of another team.
Yeah. It's, the Wolverines, Michigan Wolverines, have been accused of cheating. They haven't been proven yet. By like the court and the board or whatever, whoever's going to, try them, which will probably be the NCAA.
But is it cheating though?
Yeah, I don't know. So basically the coach would go scout other teams during off games. He would buy stadium seats on opposite sides of the games of people in their conference.
Right.
And would stare at the coaches with his iPhone out and record them and take their signs. and then have it in the playbook, and clearly is feeding defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators on the field what the play might be. There's video evidence on in the first quarter. They check an audible, Michigan does, from another team there on defense, and they all put their hands up as pass. They all point to the air, so they know a pass is coming. Mm-hmm. So, the coach has got, lamination of signs on his binder. Is it cheating is the question. I would say it's a gray area. Do I think it's a little extra? For sure. Should there be some punishments, happening? Probably I wouldn't say super severe, just because stealing signs in sports is a thing. It happens in football all the time. And multiple coaches have come out and announced it's happening.
I mean, I think you're kind of like lying to yourself if you're not trying to steal signs. We even try to do that in Little League in baseball. We were trying to steal signs.
You're trying to
you're trying to gain any sort of edge that you possibly can. So my question is, where do you draw the line between cheating and competition?
I think it's on the NCAA because a lot of times these college players, for whatever reason, they want to make the game a lot more simple. They hold up signs with 4 different plays on it, and then they'll have another code, and that will tell them first code means this, second code means this is the play. In the NFL, they come out with three set options, plays read to them, and in the helmet they're getting mic'd into being called the play to read off in the huddle. Mm-hmm. So there's no way you can steal a sign like that.
Right.
I mean, that's a very simple way of stopping this altogether. Sure.
Why can't you do that at the college level?
And it would just make football better for everybody.
Right.
It would make college football much better. It would make the players who can handle that stand out much easier to pro teams. Because right now, if you pick up a pro kid or a college kid, let's say at, Arizona, they're running Wildcat half the time, and he's getting fed cards from a scorecard, and he's balling out, having Heisman numbers. How do you know his talent's really going to transcend to the next level? Because he doesn't run a professional offense.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
He doesn't run, any sort of multiple scheme, rub options. He's getting fed plays from a postcard. He has to memorize maybe 12 different sets or whatever. And in the NFL, you get handed it's like a fucking dictionary book, full of plays.
It's like a yellow book. You drop that shit on the desk, you're just thunk.
And I mean, you hear play calls, and it's it's rub route, split seam, 49, XZ, blue rover, on 4 hut.
Yeah, right. And they're talking about hot routes and this and that. And we got some of that, not a lot, but in the quarterback documentary. And it, it's pretty crazy what they're like.
It's just you're playing chess. You were playing
organized chess, 100%.
You're playing a different sport as a quarterback than the linemen are. As a lineman, you're looking for 2 key words, blue or red, which means left or right.
Yeah.
And run or pass. Mm-hmm. And then on the line, you kind of understand where people are lined up in your gap, what your blocking scheme is.
Right. Blocking assignment and stuff like that. Sure.
Running back, run, block, pass, block, run.
I think it's a really good point that you made, because why don't they have the headsets for college players? And I didn't even think about that.
There's certain rules. I think you're not allowed to have it.
But why? Why are the different rules? And I feel like it would only help, like you said, visually see who is going to be a good quarterback, or who's running actual schemes and plays and offense that is going to translate over to the professional level. Don't you want the college level to be as good as possible as well?
Yeah, because then if you were talking about no huddle offense, you know how much faster your teams would get if you have to run, mic and helmet quarterback. You're going to be running no huddle, and you could call way more complex plays, or even just keep it simple. But if you want to get rid of cheating, yes, the coach went above and beyond. He's a Marine who's stealing signs, he went above and beyond in the efforts to steal signs. But at the same time, that's just sports.
Right. Right. I think that's just kind of just sports.
And if you're not changing your signs and your verbiage and what
week by week, you got to.
Have to. In Little League Baseball, we would change our signs every game.
Yeah.
Coach would sit in the dugout and he's like, okay, we're flipping it. Touching the hat means steal. touching the shoulder means bunt.
Right.
You know.
Right. And you always had the activation.
Right.
You always had, I forget what the term is.
It was like
the activator.
It was like a switch or something. We called it like, so you'd like, okay, everything else I do is bullshit until I touch my hat. And once I touch my hat, the next sign is the actual sign.
And if I don't go to the sign after touching the trigger, then it's still nothing.
Right.
It's the very next one.
Right. And
we were doing that like at 10 years old. I feel like you got to be able to do that at the college level. And so that's why I'm like, I don't really think that's cheating.
Yeah, it's definitely a gray area.
Now, here's the thing, because there was a cheating scandal in baseball, and I think this is then cheating. The Houston Astros?
Yep.
Or the White Sox?
Astros.
Astros had a camera zoomed in at the catcher, and he was able to dictate what if it was going to be a fastball, slider, change up, curve, whatever, inside, outside, and they were like stealing those signs, and that's clear as day.
Clear as day. That is cheating,
because that
sitting in the stands hitting a trash can, and that's cheating. Clear as day cheating.
I think that's cheating because that is no longer deemed scouting in my eyes. Well, scouting and stealing signs at someone else's game to then give you an edge in your game is, I think, more considered scouting and watching video and film. It falls closer towards that. Now, is it still in the gray area? Yes. I think it falls closer to that in comparison to stealing the pitches, the direction inside and out.
I would say
on your game.
The reason why I have an issue with it more in baseball than I do in football is because baseball is not a physical sport. You have to have an element of surprise. Pitchers need the element of you don't know what I'm going to throw, because these hitters are good enough where you go, this guy's throwing you a fastball.
Oh, they're going to yeet.
They're going to yeet on it.
Yeah,
they're going to like, oh, curveball's coming. I know I could sit on it. Like, that information's so valuable to be able to be fed it live, real time is definitely cheating. You cannot do that.
Okay.
Because it's just, but in football, I can let you know a pass is coming. You still have to stop it.
Yeah.
I'm still, faster than you, stronger than you, and I'm going to get to my spot before you are. You're still going to have to stop me.
Right.
It's a run block. I'm twice your size. How are you going to stop me?
Sure.
You might know it's coming. You still got to like physically get in the way of it. Where baseball, you don't have to.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
If you're in volleyball, if you found out what zone you were serving to every time, it'd be much easier to serve, receive, and run an offensive scheme around that, because you need that like element of I'm serving it to this person. Even though you're serving to the person every time, he still's got to do it. He doesn't know for sure. You need that element of surprise.
Okay. I like
for
it.
me.
No, it's a good point. It's a good point.
But yeah, I just think football needs an update in general in the electronic space. Like, why not have mics in the helmets like you were talking about in college? Tennis has these 3D cameras of where the ball is going to hit the line and spreads out. Why can't football get this together and do that for each possession of the game where the ball lands and put it on the right marker? I watched so many plays this weekend
all the time
that were a yard or a half a yard short of where it should have been.
Right.
And you're like, they just lost the game because that should have been like a first down.
And it happens a lot when it's first down and they have a bad spot of the ball, and then like maybe the second down is also not a great spot of the ball. So now it's 3rd and 3 as opposed to 3rd and 1.5. Right. Well, that's a huge different play call for the offense.
Yeah.
And we were also talking a little bit about this before. It's the clock, like it's not the management, it's just how accurate the clock starts and stops consistently. Because I watch seconds click off the scoreboard all the time. Yeah, like after plays.
And no one really makes a change. No one really argues about it. And it's just that 2 seconds in football matters a lot.
It's a ton.
A lot of times it comes down to like 2 or 3 plays in football that really, really change the game.
And it's like, well, the other team might have a whole nother drive. Or you might be able to actually have an extra 45 seconds at the end of the game. I don't know. I like there's 115 or 130 football plays, and let's say you're on average a second off and you're late. That's like 2 minutes of football, basically. that you're getting
that's
back.
and that's a lot of time for a team to make a run. It's a 2-minute drive, to give itself a chance at it.
For sure. But I want to go back on your point on the LED lights and the tennis thing, and also they just need to incorporate that a little bit better. When you're down, they need to have some sort of like pressure sensor or cameras, and like they should be able to pinpoint exactly where the runner is going to be down if there's a clear shot. And then if it's not a clear shot, then obviously...
It shouldn't matter if it's a clear shot or not, because the football doesn't... Like a tennis ball changes a lot because of how the material is.
Yeah, but in football, though, it's not about the ball. It's about the player.
Right, but if the player's down, it's where the ball is at.
Right, so you need to have a sensor in the field or cameras detecting when the ball carrier is down to then pinpoint where the ball should be spotted. But to your point, there should be some form of camera footage, whatever. There's cameras all over the place. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's got to be some sort of way for AI technology is getting so crazy. Like, see the ball carrier.
Yeah.
The dude that's carrying the ball, whenever his elbow, knee, shin, waist hits the ground, either one of those 4 places, put exactly where the ball is going to be. And they should be able to pinpoint it and almost light up a little spot where the refs need to just put it right there.
Or not have someone in a mic, with the referee watching the game from a booth with a camera, like a designated guy with a high def camera following it around. He's watching it and watching his camera. He's listening. And he's like, okay, I see it. It should be down on the 42. Mm-hmm. And being able to relay that information to the on-field refs way faster.
Yeah, way faster.
Way faster.
They're talking about the whole eye in the sky thing. That's the terminology, I guess, they're throwing at it because they're looking for concussions.
Right.
Potential concussions. And so, yeah, I think there needs to be some form of ball spotting and capabilities as well.
Need to update. My God, it's slow. Baseball's becoming they realize they're a dinosaur and they updated and it increased the viewership and increased the longevity of what people were consuming the content, and more fans came to the games because the games were quicker. Mm-hmm. The football needs to chill out with the flags. It's every other play and you have no clue. I watch football and there's times where I'm like, what was that call? I've been watching football my whole life, and there's times where I had no clue that was even a rule. Why does that make sense? None of it.
I also hate how there's protection in the sense that refs are able to throw a flag, and then they can pick up a flag. They can also not throw a flag, get radioed in saying that was, 67 was an illegal receiver downfield past the line of scrimmage, and a flag will come in 5 seconds after the play is over.
And you're just like, what was that flag? And then it's just the quarterback calling right now is so soft.
Oh my God. We were watching Utah and USC this past weekend, and we were going berserk because USC was trying to stop Utah from driving down and scoring in the fourth quarter. Right. And one of their main defensive tackles has in my opinion, minor head-to-head contact with the QB.
Not on purpose.
Was not targeting, did not lower the head, was not running through the man, simply getting his hands up in the passing lane, and his momentum is carrying him towards him and kind of just bumps into him. Hard enough for him to maybe get knocked down a little bit, but it's nothing to have any sort of ejection call. And I thought that was a pretty poor way in display of where the game is headed. Yes, it's for the better. We got to keep the guys healthy. Of course, we've already talked about people getting hurt so much in football now. It's crazy, but there's got to be a middle ground.
There's got to be a way of keeping the players' safety at a premium, but also keeping football. Yeah. AJ Hawk, I was just listening to a podcast with him on it.
Is he Pat McAfee show?
He's a co-host of the Pat McAfee show.
Okay, yeah, I know who he is.
So I was listening to him. He's also the leading tackler all time for Green Bay. And listening to his podcast and talking about his injuries on his fingers are jacked up. He has like no cartilage left in his knees from college and all that stuff. And when he said it, I'm like, wow, he must really regret how bad he feels now. And almost instantaneously, he's like, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
That's what he said?
Yeah. And that's the difference between what these players and what we're willing to do. I could never play football.
For that long? No.
Never. I couldn't play professional football and be that damaged and that hurt like for the rest of my life for a game that like a game like that where these football players that they don't care.
Yeah.
They're willing.
Some kind of do. Some kind of do.
That you get to the top level, most of those boys have accepted that their bodies are jacked.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And if you get to that level and you're playing a lot, you really care about ball. You can't really very quickly I feel like you get out of football if you're not into it because it's so physically demanding that you can't really be half-assed into it or you're really going to get hurt out there.
Yeah.
You got to be fully committed.
Oh, it's off-season training. It's
Right.
getting your body into the best playing shape, physically strong, as fast as you possibly can to make you basically...
Surgeries.
Yeah. Rehab, all that
and
kind
I
of
just feel
stuff.
like these boys just, want to play football a little more physically again and needs to get a bit more physical. I don't know why these players are all getting hurt. I think it's just because of all the new tackle rules. It's just not making football super fun to watch. And that's kind of why I like watching college football more is because at least the stakes are extremely high on every game.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you take a loss to an unranked team as a ranked opponent.
Heart rip.
It's gone. Like
That's your team. That's your
USC
year.
just lost to Utah, and that's the end of their season. 2 losses.
Two
in a row.
losses, done.
And yes, it's the bummer when you have a team and you gotta sit there and like, well, there goes my season. But that is part of the game. So
Yeah, I think a couple of things that also need to change a little bit as well is I think the way the pass interference call in the NFL is going right now, I've thought about this for the last countless years as well. It's just getting to a point where it's so ticky-tack and it's also so punishing for the defender.
yeah,
It's crazy what these like cornerbacks have to do in order to cover someone and not get thrown a PI call. If it's PI, because you were proposing this before, and I'm just going to make your statement
please.
and proposal, just make it a 10-yard penalty and an automatic first down.
right. And whatever the clock started at that play is where it should go back to.
Right.
Which will then eliminate someone trying just to tackle someone to run the clock out. Mm-hmm. It's like, cool, we'll take the 10-yard penalty at the end of the game. And,
I think it's a great offsetting way because there's so many holding calls on the offensive line. I think the pass interference on the defense would then offset the holding penalties on the offensive line. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's a 10-yard penalty and it's hurting, but it's a 10-yard penalty helping the offense and it's automatic first down. And I think that way seems so much more equalized as opposed to let's just chuck it down the field. The dude's not going to turn around.
he's going to undercut the throw on purpose.
And it's going to be a 40-yard, quote-unquote, completion, and we're all the way down in the red zone already.
It changes the game.
It
changes
totally,
the full
totally
game.
changes the game. The pass interference is way too big of a factor in the NFL. It comes down to there's so many times where it's a 2-minute drill and you just huck a ball down the field, and I'm looking at the ref more than I'm looking at the players in those situations at times.
Yeah, now you're not even like into the game. Like, wow, what an amazing catch! He fought through the the hands and all that stuff and caught it, and you're just like, and after catches, you're like, any flags? Are there flags in the play? No flags. Oh my god, it was a real play.
Yeah.
And it's like that's not how like a game like you want like good reffing is a ref that isn't seen. You don't want to even know there's refs on the field. You just want to see football. And when football is good, a 2-minute drill and people are cooking and there's good plays on both sides. So much fun to watch.
It's so much fun because it's just surgical,
right?
The way that they're able to pick through the defense. So anyways, I thought that was a really good proposal because they do that in college. And I like a 10 yards is a lot in football.
Yeah.
And a fresh set of downs.
And no clock, no time off the clock.
Yeah.
That's a huge advantage.
Yeah. You don't need to go and it doesn't need to be spot of the foul, 32 yards, 50 yards, even if it's like 7 yards down the field. It's just all going to work out, and I think it just offsets the holding because the holding is very prevalent. Once you get a holding call in offense, your drive is basically over. If it's 2nd and 20, and it's so hard to make up that ground in the NFL. In college, a little bit different, but in the NFL, very difficult to make up that ground. So
yeah, I think just football. I don't know what they need to do. Get with the board, get your guys' head out of your asses, and let's start figuring out how we can make football interesting, safe, and fun to watch.
Yeah,
because it's extremely fun to watch still. I love it. Football Sundays are great. Fantasy football is great. But if you just sat there and had to watch every game with no juice, no team, you'd be like, what am I watching?
Yeah. You're just watching flags getting thrown and stopped and the play stopping every other play.
And you're big plays happen. You're wondering what's going on. Why is that being brought back? How many times do I have to explain to my wife, she gets excited about a play? I'm like, don't get excited. Why? There's a flag on the play. It's coming back. It's at the spot of the line. It's a holding. And sure enough,
right,
all the way back down.
Right. And it's a flip of a play of 40 yards, right? Because it was a big pass play.
Right. Touchdown. Everyone's freaking out. The whole kick return. Iowa had to have couldn't do anything on offense. This guy catches the ball on the sidelines on a kick return and brings it back to the house for a touchdown to take the lead. They said he made a fair catch, which he was pulling at the ball and kind of waving his arm. And they called it all the way back. And
that was after he ran it all the way back and 5 seconds after the play's over.
Right.
And then it was a video review and a flag came out. It's the late call. It's the flag when they pick it up and it's not there. It just needs to run a little bit more seamless. And then before we move on, there's one more play that I think is outrageous, and that is fumbling the ball through your own end zone.
Right.
That they need to have some sort of alternative for that.
No touchdown, back to the spot of the fumble.
Yeah, maybe not the spot of the fumble, but maybe you just go back to the 5-yard line. And if you're
20,
and then you get a fresh set of downs, I think maybe you just get. I just don't think you should lose possession of the football.
No.
If you're inside the 1, maybe you get backed up to the 5-yard line. Yeah, and you still maintain possession, and it's the same down. It's the same if it's 3rd and goal if it's 2nd and goal, and you fumble it out of bounds, and it's not a touchdown. Maybe you go back to the 5-yard line. Now it's 3rd and goal.
Right.
I just think when you're losing the ball, and then the opponents get the ball on the 20, and you lose, it's just crazy to me how that is still in effect.
It really does need a change.
That needs to update. It's okay to make these changes. I know they've been in the league forever, and it's been a rule forever.
It's just time to update.
But
if
there's
baseball can do it, you can do it.
There's some rules that suck.
Yeah.
And there's some rules that need to get changed.
And it's very evident. People are like, why is it still in here? Your players, coaches, everyone doesn't like it. Some, little highlight of some sports I've been really enjoying. Just a quick update. The Lakers basketball season officially started tonight. Against the Denver Nuggets, who now are on my top 3 most hated teams I've ever seen.
Most hated.
UCLA, number 1. I hate UCLA. Clippers, and now it's the Nuggets for me. Nuggets. I can't stand the Nuggets. Can't stand the Nuggets.
Not a big fan of Boston.
Not a big fan of Boston either, for sure. But
more so recently.
Recently, it's been the Nuggets. Boston back in the day with the big 3 and Kobe was just all-time hate. I mean, if I ever play Boston, I hate them. But for whatever reason, there's just a special place for me in my heart with the Nuggets, and I don't know what it is because I love the Joker. As a player, his skill level is so much fun to watch. But recently, he's just been getting on my nerves with his off-field antics almost. He just doesn't care about being good or basketball, and not in a healthy way. This is just a sport and this is what I do. And it's such a lackadaisical care. I remember an interview asking him a question, when he got back from, summer vacation or whatever. And was this the best summer vacation in your life after winning, a title? And he's like, no, it's actually one of the worst. I had to play more basketball than I wanted, end of championship was a deep run. Then I had to go play, for my country because it was the FIBA championships as well. And it's just like, bro, I get it, but like, can you
live a little bit? You won a national championship.
Can you be happy? Like, if you really don't care that much about basketball, you've already accomplished everything you probably wanted to accomplish. Just have
retire.
more money. Just retire. You have the money. You're going to go back to wherever you're from. I think he's from Serbia. I could be wrong.
It gets me going a little bit too, buddy. It's not just you.
It's like if you really you're just living a dream that like very few people in this world can ever experience, especially being like an MVP, who he is and how he plays the game. There's not going to be very few people like Joker.
Yeah.
And it'd be cool to see him be like, you know what? I really love basketball. Is it my life? No. Do I miss my home often? Yes. But I'm so thankful and glad I am here.
How hard is it to say that?
And it's like,
maybe you should be his PR rep. Joker, hey, we'd be willing to help you out.
It's not that hard to be like, yeah, it was an amazing summer. Won a championship. Unreal. Was one of my lifelong dreams. But I would be lying to you to say my body doesn't hurt a lot from that deep run, hard run. And now I'm in the FIBA championship with my team when,
And I don't get much family time and downtime. Boom.
Done.
Right. Like, totally get it.
Right. Instead of like, no, it was one of the worst,
Everything sucks.
I have to cut it early. I can't go watch my horses and eat porridge back where I'm from. So it's tough.
I have to come out here and make $40 million a year playing a game we all love.
And be like loved by my city that I play for that I could care less about. But anywho, Lakers looked good. I thought AD looked spectacular. LeBron turning back the clock. I think he's just going to play a bunch of bully ball this year. No more threes, no more mid-range. He's going to just let the bully ball open it up, and then he's going to start working it. He's going from in to out, which is how he used to play.
I know it's just the talk of the town, but LeBron James is just special, man. It really is.
It looks unreal.
It's crazy. He had a couple coast-to-coast layups and dunks and finishes today. I mean, I only watched the first quarter before coming over here. It's really insane, dude, what he's able to come out and get ready, and his body is just so prepped and ready. He's ready to make a little run here.
Yeah, and I think if the Lakers win the championship this year, I bet you he retires. He retires and takes a break. His son makes it to the NBA. Wherever his son goes, he'll go to that team too.
Yeah.
That's what will happen.
That's very, very
if
high
he doesn't
probability.
win, he'll probably play another year in hopes that his son gets to LA. But if he wins, I bet you, if it was me, I probably would want to go out on top.
And then come back.
Play with his brother, play with his son. Because it doesn't matter what team he's on. The storyline will be like, wow, he came back and played with his son on the Wizards.
Yeah, and he's going to be the sixth man of the league.
He'll be coming off the bench for as long as he needs to. And I bet you if LeBron needed to learn how to shoot threes only, he could figure it out real quick.
Yeah.
His basketball IQ is ridiculously high like that. They lost to the Nuggets, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. It didn't care. This is the opening night. It's game one.
I think the boys look good overall, and I think that's the main takeaway. And one game is not going to be the deciding factor of your whole season. We got a lot of new pieces, a lot of great pieces. New point guard, new big man, a couple of new small forwards.
Yeah, we're a new roster built for depth and length. We have like three really good big guys. Some shooting around.
Do you know the name that's of the player that's backing up Anthony Davis, the big, tall, super athletic Wood?
Yeah, his last name's Wood.
He looks pretty good, dude.
Hayes, I forget his name. Young kid, really stringy looking, awesome, athletic. Has an attitude problem. That won't be an issue being on LeBron's team. He's like, he's a general on and off the court. He's not gonna. You don't have to ever worry about him having like control of a locker room. That's not. People respect him too much. And there's too much on the line for him. Overall, I hate the Nuggets. Still, they won. Whatever. Good for them. I really hope we see them in the playoffs because it will be chippy.
Oh yeah,
it would get heated. That'd be a lot of fun to watch. A good old fashioned. Players are claiming there's no hatred. There's nothing going on. But also, why can't players not like another team? You can like the player, but, when you play them, why can't we go back to, I just don't like them?
Right. Why can't we go to the Detroit Pistons, where they're just, the bullies of the NBA? Why
Right.
can't we go back to like the Lakers and Celtics like back in the day? Like it got
I feel
real
like
chippy.
hockey has that still.
Oh yeah, it's got a little extra juice going on.
Got a little
you know?
extra juice of people just like, yeah, I like the dude, but like the team I don't like. People will even fight each other and they're friends.
Right.
But like you're on the ice and you're no longer buddies, and he has to fight you because you're picking on his star player. So, and these guys are friends afterwards. Like it's not a big deal. Just like you can hate a team. Like I don't know why the Lakers would have any sort of like favorable feelings to the Nuggets. They kind of like pooed on them on the Western Conference Finals, and then they just talked a bunch of shit the whole time. Like who are the Lakers? What are they doing? So, anywho.
I like the Laker update. We're going to keep tracking it because I feel like I'm very invested in it this year. Got really into it at the end of last year. And like where the team is headed. And now that we're about almost like halfway through the NFL season, it's a little bit eager to call that, but it certainly feels like it. You get the bottom half of the teams and then the top half of the teams. And it's a really tough situation right now for the Chargers.
I mean, it's going to be a hard look in the mirror to be able to turn this around because at this point, it's looking pretty bleak. I think it's time for a new coach. I would just bring him in now and find the right person for the job. If you have to wait till after the season, fine. The sooner the better, in my opinion, on that. I read a stat that they had 0 rushes at Pat Mahomes during the game. They didn't get to him once. No blitzes, nothing.
We didn't rush the QB?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And if you're not right, like you have Khalil Mack, right?
Yep.
Bosa.
He had a fractured toe, apparently, and was playing through it.
Yeah, he looks like he's injured. But you got some dogs on defense.
He's always hurt.
And you're not rushing them? Like, what are we doing?
Palota or something like that? He's our best defensive player right now.
He's balling.
He's unreal, dude.
Big boy.
He is fast and athletic, too. Dude is strong. We picked a real winner out of the second round for us.
We just need to, I think we really need to find a coach. If he's defensive-minded coach, then our defense should be buzzing, but our defense can't stop him.
Defense
hanky.
is ranked 32 in the league for yards per game. And we might as well be playing with a man down in the secondary because Davis and Asante Samuel are just massive liabilities back there.
Yeah, they just look like they can't even.
It's if it's not a 30-yard completion or a 15-yard completion, it's a pass interference.
Yeah,
it's one of the two.
It's like the teams are just opening up a can. We're just bending over, taking a knee, and just calling it. And Justin's got to run around, try to make plays, and keep up offensively with his team he has with a coach who can't do it.
And our offensive line, it just looks terrible too. Like we cannot rush the football. We can't get more than
and
like
with one of the best, supposed to be one of the best running backs this year.
And we have a great backup. We have Joshua Kelly as well. That's got great breakaway speed. I don't know what's happening because I feel like we don't have any injuries and we have the same offensive line as last year, and we can't rush the football now for some reason. Where our rushing game was like not great last year, but at least it was there when we went to it.
Right. It's just all of it's getting tougher. Chargers, it's all bleak. It's just I just wish I had a team that was decent, that I can enjoy watching year after year because I haven't had that in a while. USC sucks. Ducks not great. Angels below.
Ducks on the up and up. They are on the up and up.
Ducks are on the up and up, but
we're
still
just super young.
Still not great.
Right.
We're gonna get there at some point.
I think we have
for sure.
We have got like 7 or 8 players on the age of like 22.
Right, and we'll get there, but we're not winning yet.
No. Our only shining hope right now is like the Lakers.
The Lakers this year. But you know how the Lakers are. You never know. Oh, my God. We just watched an unreal goal from...
Shit. That was saucy.
Wow. I don't know who that man's is, but Cutter just did something nasty to this goalie.
Oh, my Lord.
Anywho, you know what? Let's get to the fair segment here. Let's get on to watching this game. Last week we did take a dub with the Jags win. You're welcome. The boys are starting to cook.
If you faded us, suck
Apologies. The boys are back. We're buzzing. We are now 4-10. We got a Thursday night football bet for you. Very simple. We're going to go with the Bucks cover, which I believe is 6.5 at the moment that we looked.
I think it was 8.
8.5.
8.5.
Okay, 8.5 when we looked. They're playing the Buffalo Bills. I don't think the Bills are that good of a team, and I don't think Bucks are that bad of a team.
I think they cover it.
I think they're going to cover.
I know it's the Bills at home, but both of them are coming off of losses. I just think Baker Mayfield's going to scrap, do his thing. They got some good weapons over at the Bucks, and the Bills have really, really struggled to find any sort of consistency and momentum through this year. And so for that reason, I think the spread is a really good bet here. So,
I love it. That's a fading.
But what do we know? What do we know?
Go ahead and fade us if you want it. You know, the odds are probably in your favor. If you take an L, don't blame us either. So it's a win-win for us, really. You got anything for the people, buddy?
Yeah. You know, go check out our latest Instagram video that's going to be coming out on Thursday. We're going to be rocking these new hats in the clip.
Ooh,
thanks.
Yes.
Little shout out Madison right there. Really, really, really nice. And a little bit of foreshadowing of what's to come. It's later down the pipeline. We'll see. Everything moves a little bit slowly nowadays.
Let's speed up. We're moving. We're trying.
We are
cooking.
moving. You know,
9 to 5. We're only 40 episodes in. We're not going anywhere. We're going to be here for a while. And, we're in the cabbage. And just a reminder, keep swinging.